Hey everyone, and welcome back to yet another Dead by Daylight video. And today is a pretty different video than usual. This is going to be a post-commentary video. So basically I'm watching the games and commentating over them. I did this pretty casually without a script or anything, but the idea was I thought it might be fun to compress like several hours of Dead by Daylight games into just about 45 minutes it ended up. So this is a really compressed like collection of just solo queue. The commentary is basically just me talking about what's going on in the games. I'm talking about mistakes I made. It's meant to be kind of chill. You can have it on in the background. It's maybe somewhat educational because I talk about the mistakes that I've made and things like that. But I don't know. I just thought this could be kind of fun. It was a way for me to use footage of my games where I was not really necessarily doing good or anything interesting was happening, but I just really, really cut everything down. There's like, I don't know how many games are in this exactly, but I probably started off with like 3 hours of footage or something and compressed that down to less than an hour. So it's pretty short, but I won't rabbit on because you're going to be listening to my voice for the next nearly an hour. So I don't know. Maybe this is something nice to just have on in the background, fall asleep to. I don't know. But I just thought this could be fun and I wanted to try something kind of new. So I hope you enjoy and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so this was game number one on RCBD. This was literally the first game I did playing this, and this was against a doctor. So yeah. Also, by the way, I'm just gonna kind of casually talk. I haven't got a script for this or anything, but I'm gonna more commentate on the chases, and our first one is gonna begin right now. We take a hit for the Quentin, or we don't really take a hit, but we sort of do a bit of a bambizzle. And this first chase wasn't too bad. There are a couple things I want to highlight in this game at some point. I choose to run through a lot of these pallets because we have enough distance to, and that's what you need to keep in mind for DbD chases is actually, while the flashy chase, and this time Quentin was on the gen for some reason, yeah, and he went down. But a lot of the time, the flashy chases look like the most exciting, and that looks like what you should be doing. But realistically, the best chases are ones where you are just creating a lot of cross-map distance from the killer and are not directly engaging with them, because that's the easiest and safest way to avoid taking damage. I took a medium vault there, which was pretty dumb because we had finesse, and we would have had way more distance if we had vaulted that quicker. But as a result, I take a hit here. My pathing here was pretty horrible. And I felt like that throughout the course of this match. I just felt like I wasn't pathing very well. Um, Here I decided to go for the pallet in the window, which I think was a smart decision. And if the doctor had shocked me earlier there, he might have got the kill. And then I end up on. Actually, I keep making distance, which is good. To the east office, which is one of the strongest areas on the map, with a good pallet spawn as well. And I play the windows a bit here. I do hit a fast vault, which is really nice. We do it just before the shock. And I keep looping this. This is a really strong loop. Here I maybe should have faked the window instead of committing, but I had just enough distance to run back to this pallet. And I think my pathing here was actually really good. I hugged everything quite well. And I think because of that, we got to the pallet just in time, but not quite enough time because he managed to down us there. But if we drop that pallet, we die anyway. So I don't think that was a bad decision for myself. But anyway, every part of the game where I'm not being chased, I just have in 4x speed, so you can kind of see what's going on, but I could just kind of rabbit over the top of it. So yeah, but yeah, as I was saying, making distance in chase is the most important part. So even though like a lot of the YouTubers have these really flashy games where they're looping the killer and directly combating them, if you will, the best chases are ones where you are just really far away from the killer, as far away as possible. So running through pallets and holding forward, as people say, is actually just genuinely the best strategy, even though it's not the most interesting to look at. So our next chase starts here. I didn't actually realize he was chasing me. And I think this is where my pathing really failed, because I ran past this pallet. I thought I could get back into that room. And then I could have run left to another pallet there, but instead I run straight into the hallway, and then I run into someone who is in the hallway, I think opening a chest or something, so I have to double back on myself and give him a free hit. So that's a good example. I was
I don't
just
really want to get
completely
stuck
not
in
pathing
this
well there. Pathing is really
cave and
important,
have
making sure
to
you run directly to the nearest pallets. Um, so yeah, that was a mistake. Now I got stuck on this pallet again. It's worth mentioning against Doctor, some pallets, if you drop them, you are just screwed. So this one I managed to actually bait a swing, which is nice, and also a Lara comes in
Oh my
and takes a
god.
hit for me, which lets me reach the East office again. I think he actually drops chase on me for her, so this was actually
Thank
a
you,
pretty
Shell, for
helpful
the assist.
hit from her. But yeah, against Doctor, there are some pallets where if you drop them, you will just die. So it's best to loop it as much as you can because that way at least you're wasting his time. Um, but yeah, so this match was the very first I did of this, as I said. And I was actually quite happy with how it went, to be honest. I think both of my chases were around the minute mark. I think my goal for this at the end of the 100 games was to consistently loop the killer for a minute on average. So I know some people can loop the killer for 5 gens. That wasn't really my grand plan because realistically that should not happen. But yeah, I thought a minute is like a good chase. That's enough time for people to get a good amount of gen progression. So I figured that was my goal. So our next chase coming up, and I think this was a pretty bad chase as well because I kind of get caught out in the building here because he actually cuts me off, which is very smart. And he can also cut that corner faster than me, so he catches up very quick, meaning that we cannot reach a pallet. I try and do a little bit of a swongle. It was not a bad effort. But again, my pathing fails me here because I path to the worst pallet on the map, which is this one. So there's absolutely no reason I should have come here. We did actually get the stun on him, which was shocking. And this did mean I could reach this pallet here. Now, I think if I committed to this and ran straight and dropped it, we would have actually been able to drop it before the shock.
Okay,
But I
that's
tried
fine.
running back to avoid the shock, which I did, but then I got hit. So that said, if he had chosen to charge his power slightly earlier, he would have shocked me before I could have reached the pallet. But because he actually charged his power slightly later, I think I would have made it just in time. So again, that's something else you need to pay attention to, like audio cues and things from the killer. Now again, we get unfortunately caught out in the exact same way. In this same location. So the killer starts chasing me here and I run outside, but
Fair enough.
of course he's right on me, so we give him a free hit. And then what I do again is my camera's off the killer. Here, camera's gone.
Really
I'm
fast
looking
on this
straight
one.
ahead, and this is another problem. Camera positioning.
Fair
If
enough.
I'd been looking behind me, I would have noticed whether he was following. Now, admittedly, I was in a really bad part of the map,
But he
so
has
even
been
if I'd
making
waited on that
really good
corner and seen him following me, chances are he would have actually just
food.
caught up before I could make it to anything anyway. But a common
Okay,
theme
it's almost
in
done. This
this
one didn't
video
give us
will be my
terrible
camera
coverage, so
positioning.
I
That's one of my
got
biggest problems.
the second
And also my
assist.
pathing is also a really big
Ooh, I
problem. But
skipped the
anyway,
gap once
second
again.
game now on Ormond
Although,
Lake
at least I got
Mine.
this one this time rather than
This
getting
was, I think,
assaulted.
my second time playing on this map, so I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And we were against a Huntress, so this was not the best game. Spoiler warning in advance. I don't think I put in any good chases here, and a lot of terrible, terrible pathing. So
I'm about to
first
call it
chase,
gray, honestly.
Huntress comes straight after downing somebody. And I know there's a pallet, but the Huntress runs along the inside, completely cutting me off, which is really bad. I do manage to just about dodge that hatchet by running into every wall possible, and I do drop it immediately because I thought maybe they won't respect, but we probably should have run through. But luckily I knew I could make it pat round because I have resilience. And then as I'm running through here, I walk into just about every wall possible. I get
Okay,
stuck two different
get the
ways.
hell out
So
of
if
here.
the killer had continued chasing me, I would have been stuck. Again, I look behind me when I shouldn't be, and I look ahead of me when I should be looking behind me. It's really frustrating. If you play a lot of DbD and you're good at the game, this is probably quite frustrating to watch at times. But luckily we didn't die because they went for someone else. But then we get stuck in this back corner here. I do have Iron Will, so I hoped that they wouldn't see me. But yeah, I do duke a couple of hatchets, but this isn't obviously a very good palette against Hunters because there's that big metal barrier which
Ah,
can be completely thrown over the top of. I try dropping it just in case they think I'm going to run through, but sadly not. Now we do get quote unquote saved by Nia here, as you'll see. She picks me up, but then she slow bolts the pallet,
Nia!
so I get stuck and I die.
Slow vault.
Which is yeah, you know what? I don't really blame her too much. It was nice that she came and saved me, but it was pretty terrible. Yeah, we get hooked, and I'm pretty sure I hang around on this hook for quite some time. Enough time for me to fill this silence with some other rambling, I guess. So, yeah, the new map, I think it's pretty cool. There are quite a lot of palettes, honestly. I think it's quite a palette-heavy map, with most of them seeming quite good. Like, even that palette was on there was not the best Huntress palette, but it wasn't like a terrible, terrible filler palette. But yeah, I immediately go down and get hooked again. Right. This game was just horrible. This was a terrible game. Um, but yeah. So one of the biggest keys, I think, for new players playing this game, learning to loop, is learning your camera positioning. It's really important to keep an eye on where the killer is at all times, and to because it helps you know what they're planning on doing. There were some instances where I was looking the wrong way. Also, I die right here. I didn't bother slowing this down because it's just me running away and then getting sniped from a distance. So it's not really a chase. Yeah, we die here. Not a good game. But yeah, it's very easy to lose track of the killer. Um, and if they're doing mind games, even if you don't see them doing the mind game, you can kind of use the knowledge of not seeing them to be able to see them, if that makes sense. Like if you don't see them coming one way, then you can assume they're coming the other way and be prepared to react to that. So the reason I'm talking about this is because there are quite a few examples where I am not looking the right way, or my camera is just looking at a wall instead of like one either way, you know. So basically, you want to follow the killer's path with your camera, and if they're not there, you can assume that they're cutting you off or doing something else. So this was a quote unquote chase here. The Myers found me, but he was in tier 2, just trying to get stalk. I looped him a couple times around this, trying not to give him any stalk, and he left momentarily. But he comes back very soon after getting his tier 3. He downs the Fung Min and then comes right for my gen. So this was the first proper chase, and this was an okay chase. First thing I did was make a lot of distance, and I accidentally sandbagged 2 teammates on a gen. So another thing you can do is you don't have to loop a pallet. You can loop obstacles near the pallet like I did there. I looped that random rock wall with the window and then ran around to the pallet. So if you have really unsafe short pallets, you can actually just loop things nearby them. That wastes as much time, and then run to the pallet to use it, because unsafe pallets are often not worth looping sometimes. You can loop like a longer obstacle the killer isn't going to be able to cut you off on. I also dropped this pallet. This is one in the back corner of Toba. It's a really, really safe pallet. There's pretty much nothing that the killer can do about it. And then the Myers leaves me. So it was an okay chase. Unfortunately, I believe that was the only good chase we had. Some really bad mistakes happened later, which I'll tell you about. And a lot of these mistakes are the reason that I later removed finesse from my build, because I just was not using it at all. So yeah, lots of gens. As you can see, we've got 5 gens left. This was a really, really bad game. No one was really getting any gen progression, so it's just one of those solo queue games. But yeah, this was not ideal. So we run to go for the save here. Oh, actually, I found a hex, but then the Myers appears. So we're looping Shack. Now this should be normally very safe. You should not die on Killer Shack. But there we get a medium vault, and that was what killed me, because I screwed up again with the finesse. Now he has bamboozle, that doesn't matter. I would not have made the window anyway. Also the Mice has a coup de grace, I believe. His lunge was very long there. So I don't think I would have made the pallet anyway, because I screwed up. But if I had vaulted that window with finesse, I would have saved myself so much time and been able to make it back round to the pallet before he could get me. And this happened, in the previous the Doctor game. I medium vaulted instead of the fast vault, which was really bad. Now, of course, I got left here on this hook until second stage, and I was unhooked. But when I got unhooked, the killer came back immediately, so we got chased again pretty much immediately. Yeah, he kind of cuts us off here, and I'm screwed at this point because, again, my camera positioning was really bad. I knew, obviously, that he was not following me on the outside of the shack. Like, if he had not shown up around the corner by that point, he was not going to show up at all. So I should have known that he wasn't going to be there, but instead I had my camera focused on the wrong thing. I was looking behind me still, but I knew he must have not been coming. from behind at this point, because
The
if he
offense
was, he would have been
happened.
there. You see what I mean? Like
Mostly things
if you
happen
don't see the killer,
for
that gives you just
the
as much
best.
knowledge as if you do see the killer. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but
Damn snowman.
you know the killer is fast. They move quickly. So if they haven't come around the corner, then chances are they're going a different direction, and I should have, figured that out. So I'm just casually hitting some snowballs at some snowmen here, and I get spooked by a little hag trap. This was an interesting moment. I ran around this hay bale, and yeah, she just kind of walked away.
Mm,
And then I ran into another trap, and she lunges, and I just dropped the pallet like a boosted noob.
I don't know what's going
And
on
yeah,
with
I
this.
just left this in because I thought this was a really, really good chase
I think
by
I've
me,
reached that
really
point in
skillful.
DbD where it's
Yeah,
really
also this was the
aggressively
first hag I've seen in like forever.
chasing.
No one plays hag, it's really weird. So then I hop on this gen for a second, and then kind of the most annoying chase ever. This is another thing I have an issue with is knowing where the killer's coming from. So I literally ran right into her here.
Okay.
Um, Vaulted the window, which is bad. Don't vault things when you have your post-hit speed boost.
Oh,
And then I get stuck in a snowman. Now, I actually
oh
had
god, the
snowballs,
snowman
so
blocked
I should have
again.
thrown those and broken it immediately. But, I didn't really think about that because it's not normal Dead by Daylight gameplay, so you don't really consider things like that. But yeah, being aware of your surroundings as well, understanding where the killer might be coming from and trying to use sound cues, audio cues to figure things out. Because if I had run a different direction, we wouldn't have been hit immediately there. We managed to get saved before second stage by a heroic Zarina, which was really nice because I thought I was going to struggle for sure. And then we just kind of sit on Chens for quite some time, I believe. This was a pretty boring game. Not much happened here, to be honest. But I wanted to leave like every game in if I could. I don't know how long this is going to end up being because if I get through like this few videos in 1 hour, it's not going to be great. But I mean, to be fair, this is like my fourth game now or third game, and it's been 15 minutes. So I guess like if it's 5 minutes a game, it's probably fine. Um, but I might start cutting bits out because there will be moments where I run out of things to say naturally. But yeah, lots of gens, nothing much happening. Hag shows up, kind of leaves. I go back on the gen. I trigger a trap and she leaves. Just kind of your usual chaotic solo queue versus Hag. No one really knows what's going on. Everyone is in chase simultaneously somehow. That's just kind of the Hag experience. But as you can see, many teammates are already dead, so this was like a really, really bad game. And eventually, any second now, I'm going to get chased or actually get a green map. So I do finish that gen and I work on another one by Shack. And our friend the Hag appears. And again, I am at Shack. Now, I believe the pallet is down, but I still should not get hit here without the Hag
I'm stuck.
setting traps, but I run into the wall. And while it doesn't get me killed, I lose like a couple of seconds of distance. We could have maybe made it to somewhere safer instead of relying on this really weak pallet. And there again, that was just poor from me because it was very obvious that she was walking through the pallet there. If I'd thrown it earlier, we would have actually got a stun, and that was because I positioned myself too far from the pallet. When you walk through the pallet, it's good to wait like right at the side so you don't have to vacuum yourself back in to drop it. But because I was too far away, my character got vacuumed into her lunge, which meant that I got hit. So again, that was pretty terrible. And I get chased again here, and I kind of at this point I wasn't trying too much because I knew like this was a dead zone, so I thought if she comes and chases me, we're probably dead. I ran into a trap at this tile. And this is a really safe loop, so I shouldn't get hit here. But again, if this was a quicker killer, that double back there from her, I would have been hit for sure. But because Hag is a 110 killer, I saw the trap on the floor, tried
Tried to
to
move to the
move
side
to
of
the
that
side of
and
it,
then
but it
it went
triggered
straight for
anyway,
me.
so that was kind of
Oh,
annoying.
not the best game
But
ever.
yeah, it was just a terrible chase. Not much more to say about that game. That was just one of those games which was not really
Game number 5 of
worth
Legend
including. But as I
2.
said, I want to include all the games, but I'm putting
Odd
them
men
on
out, all
four
men
times
received
speed. And
out.
if
And of course we are still playing Bone
this
Kill.
this is the
And
first
that's Mostly
part
Bloodlines, all the
because this definitely
thumbs
isn't going to
in
fit
the
into
top
two
right hand
parts,
corner.
into one part,
And
sorry, because I can
Gens,
only have a maximum of 1 hour
game
on
begins. Love to see
PlayStation
it.
Studio, which is what I'm recording this on. But yeah, I take a hit for Alan Wake here, and that
I feel
leads
like
to
I'm
me
100% dead
getting
here.
chased. So
Kind of unlucky.
this is the unknown. Honestly, I really like this killer. It's really fun to chase, I feel like. So I should mention I put on bounce landing this game. I took finesse off because I was literally never using it, as you saw, because apparently I'm incapable of hitting
Okay,
fast faults.
rookie
So I
sauce.
use it to get off that hill, and I run to this pallet here. Unfortunately, my pathing there was bad again because I kind of stuttered and walked
Whoa,
back
stuck on slip
into
well.
the blast zone of the killer's power, and I also got stuck on something there as well, which made me lose some time. But I do a pretty good job of moving from pallet to pallet. It's good to sometimes dip, but again, I get a medium vault, and if I had hit a fast vault there, I
I
would
kind of
have
got
been fine
sketched by
because
the
we have
clone being put
resilience.
there, but
Now, I
I
did
saw
get
you
put
couldn't
off a
use that
little bit by the
immediately, so I
clone
used
being
fast fault
placed
to.
there,
Anyway, that
but
was an
he can't
okay
use the clone
chase.
immediately, so I should have just committed, got a fast vault there. But instead, I got a medium vault, which is really frustrating. I was so annoyed at myself for this one. Because otherwise, that was an okay chase. And as I said, moving from pallet to pallet is really important. You know, loop the pallet a couple times. If the killer doubles back or does some mind game and you lose track of them, just move to another pallet because the killer is trying to play around the pallet you're on. So we get caught again here at a jungle gym. Managed to avoid that lunge by running through, which was pretty good. But this is where my camera angle is really bad because you'll see I was looking at the wall. So again,
We're gonna run
the killer
straight through
was
main because
right
we have
behind me,
balanced.
um, but then they never appeared around the corner. So I should know for a fact that they are not chasing me from that direction. But anyway, I move upstairs here. The Nia is kind of trying to take a hit. I drop down so I can use my balanced. And I run straight through main because there's a lot of obstacles in the way, so I figure they can't really land a hit on us. And we go back upstairs. I think my pathing here was honestly okay. We put ourselves in a pretty decent spot. I maybe should have gone back inside instead of running all the way around because we could have been hit maybe by the power. I also make sure to run as far away from the building as possible to prevent them from dropping down anywhere and cutting me off. And we make it back to a jungle gym. So this should, in theory, be quite safe. I also managed to get rid of my infection, I believe, which is really good. And again, we're trying to use our camera here, positioning it in a way that we can tell which way they're going around. So I make it to the window here with resilience. So I was quite happy with that pathing. And then I run all the way around to the pallet, which I think was the correct pathing again. But this is where it goes wrong. So I actually dodged the attack there, which is pretty good. I dropped the pallet early, but then I actually successfully predict that the killer is going to
Okay.
not double back, or is going to double back. But then
Honestly,
I
it was a fine
still vault
chase.
anyway, even though I visually see the killer
Kind of sucks to be
on the
chased
side of
by
the
so
pallet.
quick,
I
but
think in my
honestly,
head I was like, okay, they're going to double back, realize that I haven't doubled back, and immediately go around. They're not going to expect me to vault again so quick. But again, sometimes I think I overthink things. I play like 4D chess when I just need to keep things somewhat simple. Um, yeah, I was really lucky there. The killer didn't chase me again. I would have been dead super easily. I was in a corner and just had one pallet there. But yeah, I was lucky to not die. But again, you can see some kind of obvious examples of just not using my camera, and then also just kind of lacking like, I don't know, critical thinking. I don't know if that's kind of harsh. I'm being quite harsh on myself. But as I said, it was quite obvious when the killer is not coming around the corner that they must be going a different way. But because I don't see them, my brain just doesn't respond to it. At this point, we try and save the bill. I kind of really screw this up as well. Alan Wake gets injured, and I, for some reason, run back and take a hit from the power, which Alan Wake wouldn't have been injured from anyway, and I can't exactly block. So I put myself in a really bad position, and I luckily managed to avoid that final shot. But if that had hit me, I would have been dead. So I'm not sure why I did that. I really like trying to take
I don't
hits
know
and
why I
protect
did that.
people,
I was
but
like
there was nothing to do there.
being
That's like taking a hit
distracting by
from
the
a plague.
bike
It's
move,
just
and
not
then
gonna.
like I really
You're just
almost killed
gonna both
myself.
die. So that was
Game
kind of stupid. But
6
yeah.
of learning to loop.
Okay, so this next game was on Shelter Woods, and spoiler warning, this was a bit of a quick one, I think, against a
Oh, what the
blight.
hell?
So the
I've
first
actually
chase
played a
coming up
game of this where
now,
like one guy's
I
immediately been
have a
chased
little
by
bit
a
of a
bike.
jungle gym situation going on,
Kind
but
of
I
funny.
immediately take it. So honestly, it was a pretty smart move from him, but we should have
My favorite Dead by
hugged
Daylight killer.
the other side of the
Just got
pallet
rid of
more.
this.
I dropped this one instantly because I felt safer having this pallet down. I looked completely behind me there because I figured the only way he's going to hit me here is if uh, I don't pay attention to behind me. Now, obviously, at this point, I'm kind of screwed. It's a quad wall
Really not a
gym,
lot I can do
so
there, I don't think.
really not a lot you can do there. But we could have played around the window a little bit more. Then I run into him again. This is like quite a bit later, as you can see. Two of my teammates are dead, but I cut out a lot of this game because nothing much was happening, and I get a little bit of a swongle, which was quite nice. But then we die immediately, so uh, I felt quite proud of that, though. It's always nice to do a little bit of a swongler, and I think our teammate here actually manages to pick us up. Yes. Is it Jake? No, it's Nia. Sorry, not even close. So I go upstairs because we do have balanced landing, and I managed to utilize that. And I run right back upstairs because I'm going to be real at this point. My pathing was pretty much panic pathing. I had no idea what I was doing. I managed to get to another pallet though, and my plan here is just to fight it out and do my best. Keeping an eye on double backs and power usage. I just dropped the pallet early, which gives me time to make it to a pallet gym. At this point, though, I'm nowhere near the Nia, so it becomes increasingly difficult for me to kind of recover this situation. I also think it might have been smarter to stay on the short side of this loop. Um, did a pretty good job there, though, of not dropping the pallet, and also that was an example of staying on the right side. Now, I did kind of call out his mind game a couple times there. We used the check spot to see he was moonwalking, and then I saw that he had faked the moonwalk, but I kind of reacted a little bit too slow to that one. And yeah, we are dead. That end chase, though, was honestly pretty good. It's just the whole rest of this game was a disaster,
What
which is why
game
most of it is not
started?
even
Oh,
included.
Mother's Dwelling.
Mother's Dwelling was
I
the
think a
next
few
game,
times I like said that
and
wrong.
I'm recording this audio quite a bit later, so I don't fully remember these games. This was a Houndmaster, yes, and this was quite a chaotic game, I think, actually. Vaguely remembering this. So she chases off this gen, of course, because she just gets a
Oh,
hook
it doesn't look
really close.
balanced.
Now, I
What am I
kind of
saying?
get stuck on everything here, which was really unfortunate. Like, I'm still getting stuck on stuff as we speak. So that was like probably the worst start to a chase ever. That's an example of where just watching where you're going and running in a straight line would have been a much better idea.
Okay.
And then we just run back into the killer again. So I abandoned the
Smooth
pallet for
chase
really
on
no
the
reason,
killer,
just because I
then.
lost track of her. And this is why camera positioning is very important because when you don't need to look at the killer, you shouldn't be looking at the killer. You should be looking at where you're going, planning ahead where you want to go. Because if I had actually paid attention to where I was running to, I wouldn't have run into like 12 pieces of garbage on the way. But on top of that, there we lost track of the killer on that jungle gym, and as a result, I kept running. But actually, we should have stayed on the pallet. It's always hard, killers will work hard to make their position more difficult for you to track. But really, I think I was to blame there. So we get chased again here. I find a hill so we
Useless
can pop
hill.
our balanced landing, but I do kind of run into the killer to do it. I still think this was a good play. Hit the window and get straight back to the pallet. So I think this was okay, but against this killer, she can obviously counteract us a little bit there. And I also run into every wall imaginable and then run back into the killer again. And yeah, that was just like
So bad.
complete panic. I think we even had the strong window open. So I don't know why I ran back into her, to be honest. To be fair, I didn't really expect her to vault back, but that was just like really terrible, really, really terrible for me. Anyway, I end up escaping this game. So, but nothing else of interest happened, which is why there is that very unnatural jump cut there.
Okay, game number 8 on Ormond.
This game was on
Let's go
Ormond Lake
through
Mine.
exactly the
Again,
same.
the
First
map I really don't know too
turn.
much about, which is why it's helpful having windows on. I think this might have been a Houndmaster again. Uh, don't really remember. We'll see. Uh, I don't know if I said or I cut my own thoughts off earlier, but I'm recording this quite a lot later than the first recording, so I don't actually have much memory of what these games are anymore. Uh, okay, yes, it was a Handmaster, and yes, I do remember this game now. It was really bad. Spoiler. So first chase, I run to main. I think main
Is
is
it on me?
pretty strong on this map. There's literally like
Not the
5 pallets
guy?
in it, but
Okay,
they're not
well.
amazing pallets. But this pallet I'm on right now is really not that bad either. I think unfortunately it was a pretty good palette for Houndmaster though, because there wasn't too much I could really do there to avoid getting pincered. Because against Houndmaster, you're kind of fighting two killers. I think I should have pre-dropped that pallet because it's actually pretty strong looking at back at it to pre-drop that because the killer has to go all the way around. It's not, it doesn't seem like a great loopable pallet, but it does seem like a great pre-drop pallet, at least coming in from that door because it blocks off all the options for the killer. So yeah, not a great chase.
You're
And
gonna run
then
again.
the
Oh,
heal is interrupted, so we're chased immediately, which is really unfortunate. I don't know where I am or what this tile is, so yes, we run immediately back into the killer and die again. I wouldn't say she was tunneling, really. She wasn't on anyone, and Bill was also injured, so realistically, that was just a bad situation. Um, yeah, nothing much happens for a while now, but I believe we get chased one final time very shortly in the Killer Shack. Now, I've played this game long enough to know how to loop Killer Shack. However, I do make mistakes. Um, I, yeah, we should have absolutely dropped pallet there. That was entirely my fault. We should have just camped pallet and dropped it. I think against this killer, you can genuinely kind of pallet camp a little bit. We use our bounce landing here, which was quite nice. Um, and I try and make it to another pallet. I do make some effort there to avoid the dog, but I fail sadly. So it is how it is. That was another
I'm
bad
at
game.
number
Coal
9 in
Tower.
the good old-fashioned
Um,
coal
again,
tower.
I won't know what's
Last
going on
game,
here until I
cautiously settled for
get into it
neutral
myself.
time.
This is like the millionth game by now. I played a lot of games. And it's a Houndmaster again. Some chaos going on at the beginning, but we have a long section of not a lot happening. As far as how strong I think Houndmaster is, I think it's a pretty tough killer to play against. It's kind of in that clown slash like dredge area where pallet looping is really difficult. And as you can see, this is a really horrible start to the game. Everyone on my team gets downed. So I go and pick up David, and luckily Meg gets away. But Nia is already dead on hook, which is terrible, and everyone is injured. So it's just pretty much a horrible start to the game. Any game that starts with three people on the floor and one gen done is not great. But we do pull the killer's attention at this point, and I'm thinking in my head, we got to do a good chase here. We got to put in the
Suppose
work.
we can lead her
Do
away.
I? Probably not. So
Okay.
this is, I mean, again, immediately here, I run from a very safe tile to an unsafe tile, which is a mistake. I wanted to get to Coal Tower because I wanted to use my
Use
balance
balance
landing.
landing, so
But unfortunately, to do so, I basically ran into the killer. So was that the dog flying past me there? I pre-dropped this pallet. It's a really good pre-drop pallet because it's not loopable. The killer did just leave, but that pallet is always good to just drop early because you can't really loop it well. A good loopable pallet is one that has two sides that you can loop. So the difference between that one is it's wedged between a car, which you can loop around, versus wedged against a coal tower, which you can't loop around it because it's too big. If you get what I mean? So whenever there's a pallet against like a wall and against a small object, it's generally a pallet that's better to drop earlier because you're not going to be able to loop it too effectively anyway. And that one is particularly safe because you can continue running towards another pallet immediately
yeah,
after, so it kind of buys you
DbD
time.
and leave.
Somehow all the gens get
Nice.
done. I just leave
Stay
David in the lurch,
committed.
quite frankly. Um,
Hey, game 10 is
and
3
yeah,
out of
Garden of
3.
Joy.
Garden of Joy,
Sorry, I feel like I didn't
probably
talk about that game much, but there was
most
really just
people's
one
favourite.
chase, and I made a little bit of a mistake again, leaving a safe tile, which again, I think this should just serve as a lesson. Don't just leave tiles for no reason if you're in a safe jungle gym and the killer is close. Just chill. Just stay on the jungle gym, but try and keep an eye on where the killer is. A lot of these do have some check spots that you can manage uh, and keep a good eye on the killer through them. So I think this was a doctor. Kind of vaguely remember this one. Um, I think this was kind of a good game. I don't know. We get smacked there, but I think I was taking a hit. Um, so we don't actually get chased, but then we do get chased quite shortly after. And this is a very strong tile in Barn of Joy, but of course that's not much to be said because all of these tiles are strong. I mean, this part of the map in particular is basically several jungle gyms, one after another. But again, then I
We're not
don't
looking where I was
suspect any
talking
kind
then.
of mind game, which is dumb.
Right, I was looking where I was going and I was
Realistically,
like,
we should have
that
counter
looks
pallet
good.
there because that would have given us the best way of knowing whether he was cutting us off or whether he was staying on the loop. Um, Against Doctor, realistically, you want to just try and loop pallets tightly. I actually made a pretty good decision there to run off the loop and loop something else and come back. But the problem is, I really thought he was just going to double back, but he didn't. So if we had actually kept running back to the pallet, we would have made it. But I slightly hesitated, and as a result, we ended up going down. But it wasn't the worst first chase. Um, I seem to remember it gets worse from here, though. So we go off to save Kate, and I think he comes right back to the hook, but I do manage to get the heal off, and we take chase again. So again, we are on a honestly not a very good tile here,
What is
and I
that
got stuck on
bush?
a hedge. Honestly, the position of that bush is kind of bull. It's just literally right there, a solid bush. But yeah, that wasn't a great tile against Doctor. You don't want to get stuck on any super long loops with like no potential for moving away. This one isn't so bad, but I mean, if the Doctor is smart, realistically, there's not a huge amount that you can do except just waste as much time as possible. I could have made the decision to loop the shorter side, but in the end, I decided to just spend as much time as possible. Kate tried to help out, but unfortunately, she did have to drop that pallet, which meant we didn't really have any safety in that area anymore. So again, on the hook, we do get rescued and healed, luckily. The Doctor kind of comes back, but luckily both of my other teammates do take his attention. So we managed to snap out of it, and I believe we rescue Kate, but then take chase again immediately.
It's
So yeah,
gonna
I
go
see
for the
Doctor
hook.
coming back. I tell Kate to basically GTFO, and at this point, I'm like, okay,
He's gonna go for
we're
me.
dead on the
I'm
hook.
down on hook.
We need to just kind of focus up here. So again, short pallets. He did miss a swing there. I'm not sure what happened. He seemed pretty fast. I don't remember what perks he had, whether he had play with your food or anything like that. But I think his plan there was to interrupt the gen and give up on chasing me, but he ended up coming back. So I went upstairs because I know that we have balanced landing. I did end up unfortunately getting lost. I think we could have chosen a lot better places to drop down, but either way, this house is a bit of a maze, and it worked pretty well to just buy myself some time. Went for the window, and then I did know that there was some more pallets in this direction around the gazebo, but he actually did drop chase, which I was really happy about because I thought he was just going to commit to getting a kill. Unfortunately, he did find Kate later, who was the other person down on hook. Neither of the other two teammates had really been hooked, so I was kind of hoping one of them would take some of the aggro, but they did not. Luckily, they did finish the last gen though, so can't really complain too much. I got on a door and can't quite remember. I 99'd it. 8 died, and I waited for
Okay. Game number
the hook
11.
to open the door because of Blood Warden.
Right, we
Okay,
are 11% of the way there.
Rotten
I think I won just a bit.
Fields. So honestly, like that last game was okay. I think realistically, Doctor is one of those killers that you can never look that good against, right? Because he is a killer which completely nullifies your ability to actually play the game. So yeah, obviously there are things you can do to counter him, but a lot of that kind of equates to running away from loops and just running in straight lines and stuff. He is just pretty much one of the ultimate anti-looping killers. So this time against the Houndmaster again. Keep in mind this was not long after the release, so that's why a lot of people are playing Houndmaster still. I don't think you see too many of them now though, but I don't know how popular the killer is.
Right,
We
we
get
have
in
so
chase here.
we have so much distance.
Oh, I kind of remember this game. I think I kept dropping off
Running
this
all the
hill,
way around
but
this hill.
it never triggered my balance landing, which was kind of annoying.
Drop down.
Okay, that time it did,
Towards
but
the shack.
I seem to remember that I drop off it sometimes and it just doesn't work. I make, well, okay, there I avoid the dog,
And run
but
back
then I
into it.
ran back into it, which was obviously very
So
stupid.
bad.
I think I didn't fully understand
I'm not gonna
that
use Shack.
when the
It's
dog was
really annoying
there,
the pallet on this
it
map.
was still a threat as opposed to like it has to be dashing to get you. Do you know what I mean? Like it had missed
Let's
the
see if we
dashes
got a
already, but
map
I
on
ran
the
back
map.
into it, so I guess it still has the hitbox. Anyway, ended up leaving me, and well, not for long because we got
Okay, we're just
chased
gonna.
again pretty soon.
You didn't technically
Um,
reveal us there, but
and again, I did the
yeah,
exact
yeah.
same thing. I ran away from the tile. I don't think this was the worst decision
Okay.
because she did try and use her power and miss. But
Yeah.
looking at the
Let's go
map,
to the TNLs.
there is really nothing much here. Also, I don't know what I did there. I don't know why I did that. I ran into a wall and then ran back into the wall. I genuinely don't know because I wasn't even looking at the killer. So that's just an example of me kind of losing my mind, I guess. I don't know if something happened, like maybe I got distracted by something in real life. I think that could possibly have been what happened there. Because that was just yeah, that was just bad. No two ways about it, really. That was just terrible. We take another
Literally
chase
just jumped
here.
into him.
In this, I pretty much get chased in the exact same location every single time. I try a little bit of stealth here to get myself in a good position. Honestly, stealth before the chase is pretty okay because it does keep you with a good knowledge of where the killer is. That said, that
Really
was
worked out really
unfortunate,
well.
really, because we could have potentially not been hit by the dog there, but you know.
Um,
So here's when I think, yeah, my bounce landing doesn't trigger, which is kind of annoying, but at the same time, it did allow me to loop back around and do it again. I'm just not convinced it worked. Oh, it did work that time, but I'm lucky it worked that time because she knew what I was doing. Um,
okay, we can make the window.
really, that was just a pretty bad loop. I mean, I guess you could argue bringing the killer all the way around the hill and then back to the loop is good, but it's probably not good against a killer that has effectively a ranged attack. So it was just not great. I think we should have, well, we should have not dropped off at all to begin with because the killer was literally there waiting for it to happen. But if we did drop off from that side, I think we should have committed towards Killer Shack instead of going back to the jungle gym. Because the jungle gym already had lost the pallet, though it is still a strong area because we have a couple of filler pallets nearby, so it wasn't a terrible place to be. I go for the save on Laurie here. At this point, the game is kind of donezo. We do only have one gen left, but everyone is dead on hook, so really, no matter what happens, someone is probably going to die. I go back to my gen. It's at 50, so it's not the worst, but you know, this
Okay,
killer
so in the
can
real world, we loop this and then
obviously check
somehow
gens
get
from
back
cross map,
around
so
to.
don't have a lot of chance of getting away with anything. I do hide behind this wall, which I actually think is kind of smart, because that means there is an extra obstacle between me and her. I do make it back round to the pallet. Again, I think I dropped that far too early because if we'd been hit by the dog, we would have been able to drop it to free ourselves. I think that's what you have to keep in mind against this killer is that it's actually a pretty good idea to hold off on dropping pallets if you can. So I made sure my balance landing activated there. Um, and I think my pathing there was actually pretty good because I think she expected me to be going back to the tile, but instead I ran all the way back around towards Killer Shack. Again, it's just a pretty bad situation here though because there is one gen left, but you know, I think I may have been able to open the door though, but yeah, Laurie paid for her sins, so we unfortunately only had one person out. But
She does. Yeah. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Now I can't do anything.
Okay, you made it. If you're listening to this, congratulations. Um, I'm not sure why you subjected yourself to that, but hopefully it was fun in some way, or educational, or relaxing. I don't know if I have a particularly relaxing voice, but nonetheless, I tried my best. I don't know if I'll do these types of videos in the future. It really just depends on how much I play DbD, because this was just when I wanted to play the Christmas event, and I thought, I haven't done a video for ages, so I'm just gonna like save all my games and just pump them into a really compressed video. This took quite a long time to make. This was probably one of my longer exploits because A, I had to edit like a lot of games, And also I had to commentate for like nearly an hour straight. So that's kind of interesting because usually when I'm playing, recording Dead by Daylight, I play, the games are 10, 15 minutes long. I'm talking for a few minutes of that. A lot of the time I'm silent because a gen or nothing's happening or I'm just like focused. So yeah, a lot of talking successively. To be honest, I have no idea what I talked about half the time. And I don't think it was like it was not great commentary, but the point was it was just supposed to be casual and have on in the background, watch it if you want it, kind of thing. So I don't know. Hopefully someone enjoyed this. If there's one person that found this remotely interesting, great. Maybe I'll do more long form stuff like this in the future. To be honest, I'm a person that really likes watching long YouTube videos. I always have like 2 hour long videos on in the background of someone playing a game or something like that. So those are types of videos I enjoy. So I kind of wanted to emulate something like that here. But there's no real good way of doing that with DbD. Either you can like compress like an hour's worth of looping, which I last like 20 seconds per match, so I'd have to play a lot of games. Or you can do this kind of post commentary thing, which I thought would be fun, and I like yapping, so I got to yap for 45 minutes, and I got a video out of it, which is great. So I'll see you guys in the next one. I should hopefully have another video soon because I have footage all recorded for another perk showcase thing. So that hopefully will be coming in the next couple of days. I'm trying to upload daily at the moment, so we'll see if that carries on. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.